Welcome to the What Now podcast, where we document our journey through chiropractic. Our goal is to give you, the new chiropractor, our firsthand experience in running a principled, cash-based practice right out of school. Join us as we bring you real perspective, lessons learned, and the leading names in the profession as we build the practices of our dreams. Yo, everybody, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. Spencer and Zach are back. What's up, dude?
What it do? What it do, Bobo? Back in the booth. Excited to keep diving into our day one, day two procedures.
Yeah, that's gonna be your signature, huh? What it do?
What it do, Bobo?
Yeah, so what's up, guys? Welcome back. Last week we talked about
My adjustment is my signature, Spencer. All right, I'm a chiropractor.
I just use a pen. That's my thing. Oh man.
UPS guy drops off a box. Can I get a signature?
Dude,
Toggle
line
the
across.
Atlas.
That's tough.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Those are the best. Anyway, so guys, this is going to be a continuation episode of our last one. So if you haven't listened to our last one, we talked about our day one process. So what does it look like to onboard new clients? And today we're going to continue that conversation and going over what do we do for our day two, meaning our report of findings or doctor's report, whatever you want to call it, the second time when someone comes in. This is how we both do it. We both have a 2-day process. So people come into the office, we do a consult, we do the scans, all of those things. And then in their second visit, what we do is we go over their scans, we give them our recommendations, and they pay. That's kind of how we do it. So we're going to talk you guys through that process. Because I feel like a lot of people have been reaching out and been like, what are some actual steps to put into, right? And a lot of things that you guys are asking, we don't necessarily talk super clear about on the podcast, but we do go over it really big in detail in our What Now startup course, where we did one last year in November. So we have a PowerPoint. So if you want access to that PowerPoint, send us a message and we'll give it to you. It's like all of our tangible steps on vision and branding and all those things.
Yeah, we leave a lot to be desired. So if you get it and you're like, "There's nothing here," it's because we like to talk about those things. But
buy our course. We actually
buy our course, get into our sales funnel. No,
yeah, we don't have anything to buy, but just send us a message and we'll send you over the presentation.
Yeah. And on top of that too, just for the listeners, our goal is to not necessarily gatekeep. I think that's something that Spencer and I have both found frustration in the chiropractic profession is you can only hear about someone's day two process or their day one process if you sign up for their $1,500 course, which I totally understand is like their intellectual value. But as two guys that are a year and a half in, not even to practice and seeing minimal amounts of success, I know to a lot of people, we would seem like a success, but I know for both of us, we don't feel like we're a success quite yet. But with that said, we don't mind sharing. And this is all to say, if you're listening to this and it's 2027, it's most likely that our day one, day two processes have changed because it's an ever evolving game and ever evolving life cycle, which is your systems.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest thing I was going to say is like the whole reason that we're trying to be as transparent as possible on the podcast is because everything is changing, right? This is more of a journal than it is like a coaching program, right? So if you are listening in 2027, buy our course because we've monetized it and you should buy our course. But
yeah,
right now we don't have a course to sell. So and everything is changing. Like, dude, I've changed up so much stuff and I feel like I change a lot and tweak a lot of my systems and stuff as I see it because it's a living, breathing organism. And so really looking at your practice as a baby or as a child or as something that needs to be nurtured and developed, I think that's a big deal. So anyways, Zach, let's get into it. So walk everybody through your day two. So people, they came in for their first visit. They had an awesome experience. When they leave your office, what is the next thing that you do?
So when they leave, it's something we're in the works of, and I'm actually going to talk about to my team about it. But I really want to start sending either a quick, 45-minute video via Loom or something like that, kind of explaining what we just did as a recap. 45 seconds. Sorry. Not sending them a Netflix episode. 45 to a minute, 45 seconds to a minute. But we're not currently doing that. So right now that in between day one, day two, there's really nothing happening. which I know if you're like a top dog sales person, you're like, oh, but we're working on it. So, anyways, day two, they come in. Um, we we have them take off their shoes, which is actually a big part of the experience. So it's like, hey, we told you when you get adjusted, take your shoes off. And if I'm up by the front, whether I've just walked a patient up or I'm coming out of my office, I can typically um, escort or bring them to the table, or Josh or Victoria will bring them by. Um, and so they come in. I prefer to have already be working with someone for about a minute, 2 minutes. That way I can tell them, hey, let's go face down. All your stuff can go in this bin. While I'm working with Tim next to you, please begin to take some deep breaths into your body, all the way down to your low back. Take some deep breaths out through your mouth. And what I want you to notice or feel is any areas of tension or compression. And that's all I tell them. And then I keep working with the person next to him. Or I go check in up front if it's just them. Just like, hey, what's going on? Because busier you get, the less you see your front desk. And so I let them kind of decompress. They're really nervous. It does surprise me still how many people, when they come in for their first adjustment, it is actually their first adjustment. Um, and I walk them through as if it is their first time. And so I'd let them know, hey, every time you come in, and I'm typically on a knee, um, as close as I can without being creepy or weird, talking to into their ear. That sounds weird, but we
I'm
play
gonna
music.
adjust.
We, I'm not whispering or anything. I just know our music's a little bit loud, and I want it to be a very comfortable experience. So I let them know, like, hey, every time you come in, I'm going to start at the base of your feet. Your feet are the end of your nervous system, and like right from the beginning, um, one thing I'd really try to lay down is everything we're doing, all this work we're doing is focused around your nervous system. It's not focused around your muscles. It's not focused around your joints. It's not even focused around how you're feeling. It's around the function of your nervous system. And so I try to just work that in very minute kind of planting seed type way. So I'm going to start at the base of your feet. Today, when you came in, your left foot is actually half an inch shorter than your right, which is showing us that your body is holding more tension along the left side. Doesn't mean I'm only going to work on along the left side of your body, but our goal over the next several weeks or months working together is to begin to create balance. Um, and sometimes they're like, oh, that makes so much sense. Right? They're like, they have left hip pain, so just kind of have a light bulb moment for them. And then I begin to explain to them what I'm feeling along their spine. So I'm feeling for any changes in temperature, which could be signs of inflammation or joint swelling, as well as any muscular derangement, or as you might know, as knots. Again, another sign that it's a good area for me to adjust. That way I'm not just like laying my hands on them for like 2 minutes palpating. They're like, what the heck is this guy doing? Um, and so feeling what's going on. And typically the first adjustment from my training should be the fastest. So uh, about 2, 3 minutes, I tell them, hey, I take it easy on the first time. And my take it easy is for a lot of people probably as strong as they can go. But that's why I stay steady in the gym. But we still get things moving. It's not like a tonal adjustment. Um, and so typically side posture, thoracic, 1 or 2 cervicals, call a day. No extremities, even if they're coming in with their plantar fascia or their shoulder or those type of things, no extremities. And I explain that all on the table why I'm going to do it. Um, and then I said, okay, I want you to lay there for just a second, start to feel what's going on in your body, specifically your brain. Um, and then I help them up, bring them into the consultation room, and we go from there. So we start day two with an adjustment, which I know for a lot of offices is kind of backwards, but we start with the adjustment first.
Nice. Nice.
Yep.
What does your process look like in preparing for your consult?
Mm,
Like,
right.
yeah,
So there actually is stuff happening.
from the
Yeah.
day, from like
Yeah.
right when they walk out. How do you
Mhm.
process all their information and stuff? How do you get ready
Yep.
for them to come in?
So typically, and my team is phenomenal at this. I got to give them big credit. They typically have the folder. So we have a folder where we do all of our presentations. And
What's
it
on
has
your
their
folder? How's your folder designed?
right now it's just a white folder. I want to get design folders that say like "Welcome to Within Chiropractic" and it has their name right underneath it, kind of like a name tag type
You
thing.
have a sticker on it?
Not even a sticker. It
No.
is it is vanilla.
Dude,
Um,
I'll send you my it literally is vanilla. It's all white.
yeah. I
But
mean it has their name like in big and bold, so it's like their personal folder.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, we have stickers, so I can put stickers on there. We
Dude,
have
just
a sticker guide.
I
Excuse me.
I so for those of you guys, like think a lot of it, like we're talking to you guys who are in startup mode, you
Hmm.
can deliver really high quality experiences on a budget. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to have these like folders that are like
Yep.
$4 a folder because okay, when you think of it like oh man, $4 is nothing, but like when you start seeing 100,
Yeah.
200, 300 people, like
That
four
adds up
dollars a
quick.
folder adds up really quick, right? Plus all your paper and stuff. So uh,
Especially if you, I mean, not to cut you off, but like if you're in startup mode, your conversion, unless you're a stud, and there's nothing wrong if your conversion is low and as a startup, like you're just figuring it out. But if you're spending $4 on a folder and you got a 40% conversion, that's $4
yeah,
that you're
you're
just
cashing out. So
yeah.
I use these blue folders from Amazon. I forget what they're called, but it's like $12 for 25 folders. So I pay 50 cents a folder. And then dude, printing stickers is expensive. Like you can pay up to like 25 cents a sticker.
I
And
got a sticker plug.
yeah, well, maybe we'll need to get in with your plug. But I get these just regular 5x4 big stickers from Amazon. It's like $6 for 10 pages. So you're paying like 9 cents a sticker or something like that. And
Hmm.
then I just in my I toss them in my printer and I have a Canva thing and I so we print stickers so we don't always have to like
Oh,
make
nice.
orders. So we have stickers
Yeah.
on demand and it's literally just our logo and then Logan writes their name on the bottom of it. So I have like the
Mhm.
whole like custom folder because we have a blue folder like that's part of our things and then I just take that big sticker and I put my logo on it and I print it out and it's not as nice as I would like it to be, but it's a similar effect, right?
Hmm.
And we write their name on it and everything like that. The has a
Yeah.
pocket for our stuff, and so you can deliver like the same quality experience on a budget. Like I think I did
Yeah.
the math; it costs us like 65 cents to have a folder or something like that.
Yeah. And that goes a really long way. A lot of people, one thing we hear a lot is, well, my doctor in general, not just chiropractor, like my other doctor has never, gone through my information. And I think that's so valuable in a report of findings to actually go over the exams and the stuff that you did. And like, one thing Morgan has learned from some of the sales training she's done, that I've stolen, was using the phrase what it means for you. Um, so as you're going through an EMG, not just saying like, there's a red bar here at your C1 and blah, 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 and that's affecting your vagus nerve. But like actually being able to go and like stop and pause and be like, and what that means for you is that your autonomic nervous system or your body can no longer function and adapt and respond the way you want it to, which is why you're experiencing such chronic inflammation or those type of things.
Yeah.
So
So
that's a little nugget what it means for you. But
yeah,
anyways,
I just wanted to drop in the piece of the folder and everything.
yeah.
Just as you said that, you're like, oh, I don't have it, dude. Just print them out or
Yeah.
take one of your stickers and toss them on there, and
Mhm.
like it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
then so they have the folder. What goes in the folder?
Yeah, so we have our shout out well aligned products. We have a gas versus brake sheet as a handout. I don't go over it with them. Um, I'm slowly trying to cover less, but in the folder on the left side, so if you open the folder on the left side is the gas versus brake, and we're going to continually add more handouts, especially like on our supplements, our local providers that we recommend, those type of things, just to as they get home and they do look at the stuff, they're like, oh wow, like I've actually been looking for a pelvic floor PT or I've been looking for a massage therapist. It's like boom right there. But for right now, it's just the gas versus brake. And then along the right side, in a very particular order, um, every single time, right, is first is our what to expect as well as our neuro detox, which shout out Coach Matt Morris hooking it up with that. And that goes over exactly what it is, the what to expect and the neuro detox. I don't want to go through it too much, but it's very essential and it's been great since we've added it over the last 3 or 4 months. It really helps lay the groundwork for people. Um, and again, hits on we're working with the nervous system. Then we go over, so we do EMG and HRV only. So we have that first report, and I explain like in very layman's terms, like we're about to go over all this in more detail, but here's your EMG and your HRV. And then we go into our EMG scan. And I've typically taken a red pen to the different energy distributions or um, the balance in the nervous system. And if they're in moderate range or significant range, I'll mark it. and I'll underline like the key points in each of those, as well as energy expenditure. Then we go over HRV, and I'll put a star if next to either their balance or their um, adaptability or their function score, whichever one or both, if either one are significant, um, to the report of findings. And then we have our posture screen. So I go through the posture, and I circle any tilts or shifts or underline shifts. I circle tilts. Um,
And do you
if
do
you're,
the posture screen app where they take the picture and you mark it and
Mhm.
stuff? Nice.
Yep.
I got a
So we
bunch of
print.
credits if you want them.
We nah, I'm good. I paid for the year. Um, but um, so we do that, and people love seeing themselves. They're like, "That's really me." It's like, "That's really you." There's your face. Um, so have that, and then uh, also mention their forward head posture. So I'll underline how significantly shifted their head is, and then I'll typically do like some pretty quick math. Like, is it 2 times? Is it 3 times? I've seen up to 5 times effective head weight. So it's like you're carrying around 5 times more than you should be. Um, and then we have our goal sheet. So we have our 3 goals as well as our phases of goals or phases of care. And we talk about when to expect these goals to be accomplished, or where I foresee them not to expect. And then we have our care plan recommendations. So there's quite a few sheets, and it's like boom, boom, boom. And I've talked about this where it's like you're just going sheet after sheet, and they're like, wow, this guy actually like went through everything. And I think it adds a ton of value.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I've had people bring their folders from other chiropractic offices, and it's not a knock like to them, but really like, okay, a piece of paper costs you next to nothing in the long run. And the more, for me, like we talk about like in the value stacking of things, the more content you can generate for people, even if it's the same conversation, just put it on a different sheet of paper because one, when you flip the page, it resets their mind like, okay, I'm looking at this next. So it doesn't feel like you're just rambling on and on and on and on and on again. Then it gives you a rhythm like to work through, but then also the more you have in the folder, the more valuable the folder becomes. So if you only have one sheet of paper that's like your posture sucks and this is your core score report from CLA, like you score 40 and this is why you need to come in 6 months, they're gonna be like, dude, I don't even understand what that is, right? So like we add that in there, but if you're going to have these conversations, you just toss it in there. And then, like, when people ask you about things, you'd be like, hey, you remember the thing that I went over with your folder? And they're like, nah. And you're like, well, that's why we put it in there, right? So go back and read in your folder and all of those things, blah, 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 blah. So that's really
Mhm.
good.
Yeah. So that's all in their folder, and I go over that. That probably takes me, I don't know, 10 minutes max to go over. It's not something I'm not like really studying and like trying to understand. I think at first I was definitely studying and trying to understand, and then you get to a point, at least for me, where I have a pretty good idea of what the care plan is going to be, even before I walk out of the consultation room. And I think I've said that on the last episode, where if it's if it's looking like a 28 or a 36 visit care plan, like I know that almost for a fact until I've really taken a look at their objective findings. But that's where having those objective findings really helps because it takes me out of it.
Yep.
And it really takes their emotions out of it too. And there's a whole way to portray that, and to inform someone that I know you thought you only need 12 visits, but brother, no. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to budge on that.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too, is like whenever you show people the scans, especially if they've been under chiropractic care for a while and they're like, oh yeah, like I get adjusted like once a month or something like that. And it's like, hey, if
Hmm.
you've been under like solid, consistent care that's actually been beneficial for you, and it's not saying that your chiropractor's not doing a good job, it's maybe you're just not going in enough. Or
Hmm.
like you can have the best personal trainer in the world, you're never gonna get fit if you only work out once a month.
Yeah. And I
You
think
can have
too,
the
just a recommendation of like to chiropractors. One thing I know I'd started doing, was I believed in myself too much, where if I was like in between like a 24 and a 36 visit care plan, I'd be like, well, I'm pretty dang good at adjusting, so we could do 24. And I've since realized it's always, to me, I think it's more often than not better to recommend um, more care. And if someone needs less care after, that's totally fine, but you can never add in more.
dude, yeah, because like really, like what's it's just like salt in your food. You got to
Hmm.
have the right amount, but if you put Like if you do not enough, like it's harder to add more. Like, well, maybe
Mhm.
that's backwards actually. So I retract my statement about salt. But anyway, what it is like you can't like you can over adjust someone in that session, but they're not going to receive too much chiropractic care. Like what's going to be what's going to be the big
Yeah.
deal? Like they just feel too good.
Yeah.
Like like they get too many results and stuff. Like
Yeah.
what's the difference between adding 12 more visits or something like
And
that? Like
two, it's also on the whole premise of like under I always forget how to say it, but like under under promising, over delivering or something like
under
that.
promise, over deliver.
Yeah, where it's like, hey, I think it's gonna take 36 visits and they're better in 20. Then
Yep.
you also get to educate on function too
Yeah,
and
that's
why
what
we're
I
actually
don't
getting the
really
results.
understand. Like, well, I guess I understand it like in the terms, but because like there's like a lot of these like rehab guys that do like a really awesome job, but like they're like preaching like on social media, like,
Hmm.
hey, if you can't get a patient better in 3 visits, then you're not doing your job. Okay, that's totally fine, but like as the doctors of the nervous system, and it doesn't matter what
Hmm.
your philosophical stance on chiropractic is, it doesn't matter if you're doing only McKinsey's extension exercises or you're only toggling the atlas. You understand that the nervous system is the thing that sends pain signals through the body. And so
Hmm.
that's great, right? But it's like it only giving people recommendations of care to where they get out of pain. Like, so, like for a low back pain case, right? When do people really start saying that they're better? Probably around visit like 4 to 6.
Yeah, as soon as 3.
Yeah, as soon as 3, right? And so only recommending that people come in enough until they stop hurting is like only charging your phone to 20%.
Hmm.
Like, dude, it gets the job done, right? You get by. But how are you
But you're on
really?
edge the rest of the
Yeah,
day.
like that's really
And it's
it.
the
Like,
same, it's the same for them. Like
how do you build a
because they're
practice? How do you build chiropractic? How do you really give people the true benefit of chiropractic, the
Mhm.
compounding effects, right? It would be like going to the personal trainer and saying, like, hey, my goal is like I'm 120 pounds, my goal is to bench 135. And so they come in and they work out for 4 weeks or something like that, and their bench goes up 10 pounds, and then you're like, good job is done, call me when you
Yeah.
want. Or it's like, no, dude, how can we really take you to the next level?
And I think embodying that Sherpa mentality where it's like they're coming into you to get to the top of the mountain, not to get halfway, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you can, some of our best patients are the ones where, recommended 36 or 28, and they're like, really for this? And I'm like, yeah. And 12 visits, 14 visits in, they may not be seeing the results like they're getting 60, 70% better, but their pain is still there. And you gotta let them know and be straight with them. Like, I recommended you this amount of care. I uh, need you to believe in it, and I need you to see it through. Um, and that switch, that conversation, I think in a progress exam for me, is when you know, when I really get lit up and enjoy the work we get to do, because then it's like, okay, now they're bought in, because before, up until that point, they most likely were coming in for you to fix them, and we all know it's yes, it's a done for you program, but it's also done by you, and so they get to have that revelation themselves, where it's like, crap, I've been wanting someone else to take away my pain, but I'm the one that's got to go through it, and that might be different for a peds practice because I don't know if you're having the conversation with 6-year-olds, but you probably are with their parents.
Well, you're having a lot of conversation with their parents. So, but this is a big topic I think we could hit on. Let's finish going through like our process
Hmm.
and stuff
Yeah.
because your day 2 process is so important because it sets the scene for the whole rest of their life, like with chiropractic, right? If people don't transition to a
Hmm.
chiropractic lifestyle, meaning that they understand that stressors build up in their system and that an
Hmm.
overwhelm of stressors dysregulates their nervous system, which decreases their quality of life, you haven't done your job,
Hmm.
right? It's just like going to the dentist only when your breath stinks. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, like I guess blah 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 blah, right? You brush your teeth every single day, right? And you
Hmm.
go to your dentist to get checked so you don't have cavities, right?
Yeah.
You're not if your dentist is not telling you the importance of consistent oral hygiene, the dentist is not doing their job.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. All dentists, it doesn't matter whether you do implants, whether you do veneers, whatever you do. Dentists
Hmm.
are there to teach you the importance of consistent oral hygiene.
And
And
they
we're the
do a
same
great
thing.
job of it.
Yes.
Like they have it nailed.
Yeah. So like anyway, so that's your folder. They come in for the day 2
Mhm.
and all of that stuff.
So we've gotten them adjusted.
Yeah.
We then walk them into the consultation room. Say, have a seat in the black chair. I'll be right with you. I close the door for just a bit, And I don't tell them like don't go on your phone or anything. I let them have that experience for themselves. Um, and I'll typically either adjust another patient, um, or I'll grab a quick sip of water because that's typically like a break in my schedule. But anyways, um, grab a quick sip of water, kind of reset, because I am going to go have a 10-minute conversation. And whether however you want to phrase it, it's a sales talk, right? As much I am informing them, that's what sales is guiding someone to make an informed decision. But I'm bringing them, and I'm going through that. I then walk in with the folder with the pen, but I also walk in with a water straight from the fridge, and I say, "Hey, this is for you." Um, they didn't ask for it. I didn't ask them if they wanted water. They're getting the water because we just uh, moved their spine and their nervous system in a way that hasn't moved in a long time, and they're going to need that water. There's also like a psychology to that, but anyways, and then we go over the what to expect. I lay down those ground rules. I let them know. I use my joke of, it's going to take time. It's going to take repetition. I wish I could say I'm going to adjust you once, and you're going to go back to the life you want. But then I'd be Jesus, and I don't really want that responsibility. And they get a chuckle out of that, and kind of breaks the ice. Um, and then we go through the neuro detox. Let them know they're most likely going to be sore. For a while, I didn't say that, and then I noticed people would come in, they're like, "I was sore, doc," and that kind of hurt. Um, and then I was like, "Let me just get ahead of this." And so I started saying it again. I also let them know some other things may happen. Again, all going through that neuro detox. Let them know, do I expect all 5 of those things to happen? Most likely not. But more than likely 2 to 3. And I'll let them know and I can't guarantee that because we're working with your nervous system and it's a non-linear system in your body. And then we go through the report. So we go through their EMG. Typically we tie it back, and you get the question of like, was that because I sleep on my left side or just because of my computer? And I always say it could be. And I just keep moving. And I do my best to not leave it up to questions. It's more informing and having a conversation, but I do ask after each sheet I go through, do you have any questions? I don't want to like rush through it. I don't want it to feel like I'm trying to rush to get to the sale. I want them to know what's going on with themselves. And even if they say, even if they don't sign up for care, but they have a better idea of what's going on with their body, to me, that's a win. And then we go through their HRV, let them know I think this is the most important scan we do. It's going to show me the healing potential your body has, um, and where you're at. And what I have found, and I'd be curious, Spencer, if you've seen this as well, but specifically in our women over the age of 35, for the most part, I've kind of termed it as the mama bear gene, where their EMG is absolutely crap, where it's red everywhere, yellow everywhere, these type of things. And their HRV is like an 85, like they're like smack dab in the middle, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. But I'll typically talk about the mama bear gene, where women are really good at faking it till they make it, and until we actually get their nervous system turned back on, you're actually not going to. We're not going to see the real HRV until we've done so, and we see it almost every time, where they do dip in their HRV on the progress. But we go through that, talk about why it's important, then we go through their posture, and then one thing I leave at the end, with their posture, specifically their forward head posture, is I'll leave them with the question is, do you think this is important to get corrected? And I let them answer that, right? So I've mentioned, your head is shifted 2 inches past your shoulders. You're now carrying around a 40-pound head. Not literally, your head is not 40 pounds, but that is the effective weight on your neck and on your shoulders, and it's creating your bad posture and most likely causing your headaches. Do you think it's important for that to get corrected? And I let them answer. And then we go over the goals. And then we go over, like I said, the phases of care. So phase 1 for us is pain relief, first 1 to 6 weeks. Phase 2 is corrective care. And I tell them this is where we see the long lasting results that so many of our patients have before. And then there's wellness care, and that's 16 weeks and on. And this is really, really good to see the bigness of chiropractic care. This is where you're, blah, blah, blah. But for now, I'd like to focus on phase 1 and 2, if that's okay for you, because then they're like, man, is this going to be an 8-month program, a year-long program? And then it kind of settles them down. And then we go through their transformation blueprint. So that's the lead up to the care plan presentation.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. So I'll kind of share a little bit about our process so
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
get too far behind. But when people leave the office after that, They after their day one, Logan prints out their folders and everything. And like I said, we have the
Hmm.
blue folder with our logo sticker, and then we just started actually writing their name on it, and it's been really good. In that folder on the left-hand side goes a one of my business cards, and instead of putting it logo up, I put my face on there. So like logos on the back side, my face and all this stuff is right there. With all the information. That side goes up. In the left side of the folder goes their care plan, and it goes their care. It is their care plan. The care plan goes in the folder. On the top part of the care plan is their recommendations, talking about their frequency and everything. And then strategically formatted underneath the pocket is where the financials are
Hmm.
for the care plan. And so that like perfectly fits underneath the pocket right there because
Hmm.
it's like a, hey, you know what's coming, but I'm not going to show it to you next. So it's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't look like I'm trying to hide anything, but I am at the same time. So
Hmm.
like, it doesn't like it, there's no sticker shock
Yeah.
because they know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the right side of the folder, in the same order every single time, we do their HRV scan, then we do their EMG scan, then we do their
Hmm.
thermal scan, then their core score report. If I don't ever really give gas versus brakes because I have that poster
Hmm.
hanging up in my office and we go over it on the clipboard. But sometimes I'll have the neurofuse where I'll mark off like what symptoms they have, and then I'll mark in different color pins based off of the color bar. I'll mark like what we see in their scans and stuff. So if they have like a lot of red and stuff in one area, I'll circle all that, and then I'll mark the symptoms that they're affiliated with, just so people kind of make that connection. Um, and then after that, then we go over their goals. And after the goals, then I give them a what to expect. So I go over what to expect after.
Hmm.
Um, and then after that, then we do the care plan and stuff. But before we go over the folder, I go over the care timeline. So I preface, hey, so there's different phases of care, and as time moves on and your nervous system gets better, there's certain steps we should see happen. And the whole purpose of our first day and in your first visit and with your scans, what we're trying to do is figure out what does this timeline look like for you. And there's three main phases of care, and there's restoration, there's maintenance, and then there's wellness, right? And so as we're restoring your nervous system back to 100%, after that, we want to move into a phase of wellness. But we'll talk about that later once we get there. Today, we're going to focus on, and right now, we're going to focus on restoration. And they'll be like, okay, great. And I was like, so the different phases of restoration is first, there's the unwinding phase, and this is where we get you to feel better. And then after we get there, this is like where our uphill climb is, right? And so what we're trying to do is unwind all of the stress that's been in your body for the past 3 to 4 years, and we have to try to play catch up. And that's more of an uphill climb, and this is where the heaviest amount of work comes in, where and we need to see you the most. After that, and once we see that stress unwind, then we want to build new patterns and help your body heal those areas of where stress was stuck. And then after, we want to stabilize your healing and growth so you get those long lasting results that everybody's looking for. And then I usually say like um, sometimes like if they've been to like other offices where they're not going in frequently enough and they're like, yeah, it was okay, but I still hurt, blah blah blah, and they were kind of going like adjustment to adjustment without making any progress, I'll say like this phase is where a lot of people focus on, and we really take the next step forward and making sure that you're actually building new patterns around it and really making sure that they're stable, right? Because only unwinding the stress just a little bit at a time would be like trying to push a car up a hill and having it roll back down every single time. So that's why you need to come in more at the beginning, and then we'll taper it off at the end. And I was like, but I'll explain that as we go through your stuff.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, great. Then I show them what normal scans look like. I just say, hey, look, there's this little white golf ball on your square scan. We want it to be in the hole in one. The hole, like in the hole in one position, is 100 at the top and 100 in the middle. That means that you can go when it's green, stop when it's red, and your body has a full tank of gas to get you where you want to go. If things change and the dot moves away from the hole in one, then that means that your nervous system is being affected by whatever stress is built up in your system. And then like, great. And then I say, then we're going to look at your spine. We're going to look at four charts, two for your inflammation, two for energy. In your energy ones, we want to see your bars be white and look like a Christmas tree, meaning your neck and your lower back are on the same page and your core is strong and it maintains your posture. Then in inflammation, we just don't want to see big puddles of inflammation in the spine because that means it's been going on for a long time. If I have a pipe burst above me and I see a little bitty dot of water on my table, I know it's pretty new. But if I see a huge puddle, I know it's been going on for a long time. So we're going to look at that for you. And they're like, okay, great. So then what I do is I grab the folder and I tilt it up a little bit just to where they don't see the care plan because I don't want people to be like, oh, I saw that. And then they're thinking about that all the time because I would be like that. I tilt up the folder and I grab everything out the right side of the pocket and I put it on top of the folder and we go through their scans.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through HRV, we go through EMG, we go through inflammation and all of those things. Um, and so then after the goals, I say, so what this means for you is that I got that from our conversation that we had. And I was like, so based off of the scans, what this means for you is we want to see these things happen throughout your care. And so that's decreasing the overall frequency of the ear infections, because that's what we're really here for right now. But in the long term, then we also want to see their sleep improve. We want to see them go from sleeping 2 to 3 hours to 5 to 6 hours a night. And then we also want to see those milestones increase. And so we want to go from just crawling and rolling to sitting, standing, and furniture cruising, all within this first 3 months. And they're like, I'm like, do those sound like good goals to you? And they're like, yeah, 100%. And then I say,
Mm-hmm.
would you add anything else to this? And they're like, nope, those all sound great. I say, good. So the way we're going to get there is through these three phases is first, we need to help the body feel better and unwind the stuck stress. Then we need to build new patterns around it and have the body heal those areas where that tension was living at for so long. Then we want you to function better and stabilize those patterns so healing and growth can happen. And then we'll talk about wellness. And they're like, okay, great.
In the
So
back of their head, they're what I found just based off of vibes, no, based off of intuition and having done it a handful of times, is regardless whether they see the care plan or not, it's what they're not necessarily afraid of, but what they're anticipating the most.
yeah,
And so to continue to deliver that like educational and informative content for them, I think helps them feel like, oh wow, they're not just going to come in and ask for a frick ton of money.
yeah.
Um, so, but you're
Well,
building a ton of value through that, which is also super important. That
well,
I
it's
know I've
like,
learned from Hormozy and Travis Stewart.
yeah, like if my car has a flat tire and I bring it into the mechanic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, I got a flat tire. I need this issue to be fixed. And they say, okay, it's going to take 3 months,
Yeah.
right? But they don't say, like, hey, your transmission also sucks
Mm-hmm.
and the car is going to break down. And the reason you have flat tires is because, like, your whatever car people say
Yeah.
is causing the root issue of the flat tire,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then I'm going in for continual patchwork all the time, right?
Yeah.
But if they don't educate me as to why this is an issue and it's consistently recurring and why I need to actually do some more intentional care with my car, then I'm just going to continue to get the patchwork done,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's the same thing for us. We need to educate people as to why they're happening. We say like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're the doctors of cause. We do root cause, blah blah blah. We do custom care plans, but you don't write down their goals. You don't tell them what their scans mean for
Yeah.
them. You give them the same care plan that you give everybody else for a
Yeah.
standard. You adjust the same way every single time, and you don't take any objective measures. And then you
Mm-hmm.
pop and pray and hope that they get better. And
Yeah.
like you pop, you pray, and you hope that they pay.
Yeah.
Like that's really it, right? But instead, if we deliver the value up front and we do all the work, then they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, this guy has my best interests as mine. The value is worth it, and I'm going to get great results that are long lasting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to continue even value building, we go over what's included in a care plan, which is a whole nother conversation because you may be like, well, all I do is adjust. I guarantee you, you do more than just adjust when someone's in the office. You're recommending supplements, or you're recommending stretches and exercises, or you're recommending at home stuff. Um, you might do cervical traction, or you might do muscular like muscle release, even if you're whatever you're doing. Like, um, and so noting what all that entails, again, continues to build anticipation. And one thing I've learned uh, is you almost want them thinking like, wow, this is going to be like $10,000, like
Yep.
in the back of their head. Like they're thinking this is going to be a frick ton of money. And you know that you've done that if I always ask, is it okay if I go over finances? And they're like, yeah, like if it's like kind of soft. And I don't mean that in like a negative way. Um, but that is what I'm trying to do is build anticipation that this plan that I've custom put together for them has a frick ton of value, and they've never seen this from a doctor's office before.
Yeah, in their care plan, I always say like, okay, so our first phase of care, that unwinding phase, that's going to happen in this. And so
Hmm.
for that phase, we're going to see you at 3 times a week for 4 weeks. Like that's pretty standard. And
Hmm.
then to take care of the other two phases, we're going to do twice a week for the next 8 weeks. So altogether, you're going to come in 28 times over the next 3 months, right?
Yeah.
And this is to take care of all of those goals and move you through all these phases that we just talked about. And based off of your scans is going to depend on like where we adjust. And as your body changes, we're going to do that.
Hmm.
And then I'll say to track your progress and make sure we're moving closer toward your goals and actually affecting your body in the way that we say we are, we're going to do 3 more progress scans. And we're
Yeah.
going to keep track of all of this for you, but that's going to happen at visit 12, visit 20, and visit 28. And so this
Hmm.
is going to let us know if we're behind schedule, right on time, or ahead of schedule, right? And it's going to let us change care based off of how your body responds, and we're going to be able to adapt. So we'll always have
Yeah.
a finger on the pulse on what's going on for you.
And I said something very similar, but if you are seeing more pain based, most people, again, I love the gym reference. I'd say like if I was your personal trainer, you probably would want to get on the scale every so often to make sure we're making progress. That's exactly what these scans are going to do. And so
Yep.
we're going to make sure we're on the right track. And I want to be held accountable. I just don't want you coming in and hoping for the best. Like I put my feet to the fire and make sure we're getting the results that you want.
Yeah, one of my best things that I like to say in our what to expect, it just says like chiropractic care is like braces on teeth or
Hmm.
muscles in the gym. And I have the
Hmm.
little emojis, um, just because people like they laugh at it and stuff. But really, what it does is it imprints that image like onto their
Hmm.
mind, right? They start to build associations with images rather than just words.
Hmm.
So I say like braces on teeth are like muscles of the gym, and I say, and the thing with braces is you don't put the braces on in your teeth, and I always snap like are magically straight. I say, but
Man,
it's the small.
competitive advantage you can snap. Frick,
Yeah.
never gonna be successful. I
So
can't snap.
I always snap and say like, it's just like braces on teeth, right? You don't put the braces on and your teeth are like magically straight, but it's the
Hmm.
small adjustments to the tension in the braces that creates long-lasting change over time. And as their teeth adapt to the tension in the braces, that's when it starts to line back up. Then we wear a retainer to ensure our results. And chiropractic is just like that. So, and I say with consistency to the
Hmm.
to with consistent adjustments to your nervous system, that's where we're going to get um, those long changing functions, like to your nervous system and all those things. And then we'll talk about wellness care, which is like your retainer plan.
Hmm.
And they're like, okay, great, sounds good. Um, so and then
Yep.
sometimes I'll say like, well, this is your braces plan for your spine and for your nervous system. And so boom, 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 boom. And braces, dude, braces are like $8,000.
Yeah,
And
braces are crazy.
people wear them for like two. I wore braces for 2 years. And so
Yeah.
like, dude, you will wear braces and pay $10,000, $5,000 a year
Hmm.
for and for 2 years of braces care, you'll pay 10 up to 10 grand, 20 grand.
It's not even necessarily a medical necessity.
Yeah, it's just cosmetic. And we are too afraid to recommend somebody 3 months of care for 2 grand, for
Yeah.
1,800 bucks, like
Yeah.
something like that. And so that's a whole nother conversation, right? But it's really the fact of one, like if your conversions suck on your day two, one, you're not providing enough value. Two, you're not convicted enough in your
Yeah.
plan and what you do. Or three, you're either like you're not priced right.
Hmm.
And most likely, if you're not priced right, you're actually not charging enough.
Yeah.
So
And that's what, I think we talked about it, but that point was so proven to me when I switched from Fit Factory to Lifetime. Those are two gyms close by. Fit Factory is not the cheapest, but it's also not the most expensive. And so I was in the middle there, right? Like that was the middle price point. Um, and so the value wasn't the top notch. And it was probably closer to an experience at a cheaper gym than it was at a more expensive gym. But they were priced right in the middle. And then I go to Lifetime, which is the most expensive, and they deliver on the experience every time, to the point where it's like over delivered on value. There's pickleball, there's sauna, there's steam room, there's towels, everything like anything you need. Like you can go work there for 5 6 hours and be fine. Um, and so same thing in your practice is it's okay. Like my goal is to not be the middle priced. Um, it's more so to be the most expensive. But there's also chiropractors that are like $8,000 a care plan. Um, and so being reasonable But in regards to 3 to 4 months of corrective care, like we're the most expensive.
Well, the thing is that's the difference because people think that price is just a number.
Hmm.
Value
Yeah,
is
exactly.
perception, right? So you don't like if you're the most expensive office, who cares? If you're the cheapest office, who cares? What you should care about is being the most valuable office. People
Very
should
good.
come into you and be like, this
That's
is the
super,
place
super
you
good.
have to go because it's the best. Like it's things are the best because it's the most value, right?
Hmm.
Like that's really it. It doesn't matter what like the more expensive things are, you should get more with it,
Hmm.
right? So like you have to have a unique selling point that creates value for you. For us, it's the scans, and for us, it's the pediatric focus. For us, it's the family environment. It's all of those things, right? All
Hmm.
that wraps up into the value, and all that is conveyed through our price, right? So like if I'm
And
tr
for
if
any business in that value too is your customer service.
yeah,
So training your front desk and having really good front desk staff is vital. And they know that before you go into a day two.
yeah. So I mean, we can talk way more on value and stuff, but really in day one is where you get information and you learn about
Hmm.
people, right? Day two is where they learn about you and you convey your value.
Hmm.
If you're in alignment and if you do a good job conveying your value and they're the right fit for your office, then they should sign up, no brainer.
Hmm.
Like, um,
Yeah,
that's
and really like the last point for me is um very convicted that chiropractic works. I think if you listen to Spencer and I, you probably can tell that we both have a deep conviction that what we do, one is at least for me, I feel it's my purpose on this planet. Um, but also too, it's one of my biggest passions, and I'm fully convicted that, you know, you come in and get started with care, you're going to see the results you want. And with that said, my point for saying that, uh, and I think I shared this sometime like 6 or 7 months ago, but Josh, one of my CAs, had asked me one day after someone left, he's like, "Do you think they're going to sign on?" And I said, "Well, I never think someone's not going to sign on.
why wouldn't
Like,
they?
yeah, why wouldn't like it's my job to convince like if anything, I'm the one that convinces them not to sign on. They already came in. They expressed their interest in wanting to start chiropractic care.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, if you don't have that level of conviction, I'd get around people that do.
If sorry, this is the biggest thing. If somebody takes the time out of their schedule, you know how busy you are, and you're most
Mhm.
likely like in school or you're chilling at a job or something like that. If it doesn't like land for you that somebody takes time out of their schedule to seek you out because they
Yeah.
probably don't know you, for them to look you up, for them to fill out a form, or for them to have like the need and the necessity and the desperation to call the office and say,
Hmm.
you know what, today's the day and they call the office and they call you out of everybody that's around
Yep.
and they say, "Hey, I think that chiropractic care and your chiropractic care is the solution to my problems."
Hmm.
They take the time to talk to your CA, they take the time to fill out the paperwork, they change up their schedule to make it into your office. They
Yep.
spend your 30, 45 minutes in your office, whether you have a 10-minute consult or not. They're probably going to be there for 30 minutes at
Hmm.
least. They spend 30 minutes to an hour in your office. They schedule again. They move their schedule again to come back for a day two. They spend another 30, 45 minutes in your office. And you think that they don't want to be there when they don't
Yeah.
sign up? You are wrong. And it is
Yeah.
your fault that they don't sign up. You did not do a good job enough of leading the horse to water. You can't force the horse to drink, but you can show them where to drink from.
Yeah.
And
Oh, quality leads, quality leads, quality leads. No.
if you are not doing a good job of taking people through their journey and not even proving to them that you're the right place, but reassuring them that they have made the right decision, you are the problem
Mm.
and it's not them.
Yeah.
It's not that people are too broke. It's not the
Yeah.
fact that people don't believe in chiropractic care. It's the fact that you don't have the conviction in what you told them and you did not provide enough value because you do
Yeah.
not value your services enough. And the conversion problems are never a not your staff, it's not your leads, it's not your ads, it's a you problem. If your conversion sucks, it's because you don't believe in what you sell enough
Hmm.
to actually convince people that you're worth it. And you just got to look in the mirror.
Hmm.
It's really
Hmm.
it.
Yep. A lot of mirror looking.
It's really it. If your team fights and complains, if people call on the phone and they don't schedule, or if Like people say, oh, you don't take my insurance. It's still a you problem
Mm-hmm.
because they have made a decision to ask you for help.
Yep.
And if they don't schedule, that is a you problem. Like that's a big
Yep.
thing that like I'm trying to get across like in our team. Like when people say like, oh, you don't take my insurance and they're gonna go somewhere else, that is an us problem. It means that we haven't conveyed enough
Yep.
in that moment
Yep.
why we're more valuable than using their insurance.
I mean, I have an example just from yesterday. Someone called in, uh, and they opted out because of insurance, and Victoria comes in, and she doesn't mind me sharing this, but she comes in and she's like, "Hey, do you have a referral for someone that's like good with athletes that takes insurance?" And I was like, "Well, who's asking?" She's like, "The guy on the phone." I'm like, "What's his name?" She's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Come on, like we didn't even get his name or his contact info, like that's." Like and she's like, okay, I'll go get his like she knew because that's something we really train. But it's like you and the importance of training it so often is because when someone does call in, um, probably 75% of the time, at least in our office, it's someone rescheduling or letting us know they're running a little behind or those type of things. But in the times that someone does call in, they're like, hey, I'd like to make an appointment. And you're like, oh, and you're like razzled, right? Or you're like caught off guard and you immediately go into the sales pitch. It's like, no, slow down, get their name, what's going on with them, and convey the value of our office. And so that was a tough moment for me because I realized we hadn't been training that enough. And just as I think we're training it well, it's like the old Nick Saban quote, like train it or practice it, not until you get it right, but until you can't get it wrong.
Yeah, dude. Like it's in your practice and in your business. This is what extreme ownership is. It's not just saying like, oh yeah, everything blah 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 blah. Blah. Like it's not like this like oorah mentality. It's just the fact of, everything that I want that I have is because of my efforts. And everything that I don't want that I don't have is because of my efforts.
Yep.
And so that's it. If you're like that's why I love Jared
Mm-hmm.
Moon's podcast because if it seems like it's too hard, try harder.
Yeah.
If it seems like, oh, that's maybe not for me, and I guess this just quote doesn't work for me, and blah, 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 try harder,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're making excuses, it means you don't want to try, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and we've all been there. I've made excuses like, like practice is not big enough, the office is not big enough, I'm too young, we haven't seen enough people don't know enough about, try harder. That's really it, the moral of the story. Anyway, so that's our day
Mm-hmm.
2. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but
Yeah. That was that was our day 2.
yeah, so if you guys have any questions about that and um day 2 is really
Drop.
all about your mindset. So
Yep.
uh get
100%.
your mind right and that'll help you get your money up, not your funny up.
It's
So
more it's more than just an adjustment, explaining what the adjustment is.
yeah. So anyway, guys, if you like this content, give us a shout. And thank you so much for listening to another episode of the What Now podcast. Peace. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. If you took something valuable away, feel free to share it with a friend, post it on your socials, or give us a 5-star review. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.